It is undebatable that Wuthering Waves has made massive progress in its story and storytelling since launch. The same could be said of the variety of unique events that have been released since the launch of Renacida, like Peaks of Prestige, Virtual Crisis, Infinite Battle Simulation, and Banners Never Fall. Even though Whimpering Wastes still has its issues, it is also undeniable that this mode is a massive improvement over its predecessor, Pincer Maneuver Warriors. However, one series of events has not received the same treatment, be that a subsequent revamped event or conversion into a permanent refreshing endgame mode. That series of events being the Depths of Illusive Realms, last released all the way back in version 1.4. You might immediately ask me, but isn't the Fantasy of 1,000 Gateways a streamlined weekly version of Illusive Realms? Or wasn't Dreaming Deep stated by the developers as the spiritual successor? You would be correct in those statements. However, neither of these modes embody the same essence of Illusive Realms, and therefore are not true sequels or replacements. Let me explain why they do not adequately embody its spirit. But first we need to know what makes a good sequel. Let's consider Pincer Maneuver Warriors as an example game mode that received a wonderful makeover. What was the goal and mechanics of Pincer Maneuver Warriors? To take advantage of tailored buffs to clear multiple low health enemy waves as fast as possible to rack up a score. And what is the goal and mechanics of Whimpering Wastes, its spiritual successor? To take advantage of tailored buffs to clear multiple low health enemy waves as fast as possible to rack up a score. The UI has a much higher quality skin, and the buffs can be more interesting at times, although a little too over-engineered at others, but the goal and mechanics remained the same, while the mode received mechanical and UI upgrades. Thus, Whimpering Wastes adequately fulfills the same purpose and goals using the same core mechanics that Pincer Maneuver Warriors did. A solid sequel. Now, let's make the same analysis with the various Somnoire modes. We will only look at the updating modes, therefore we will exclude the Somnoire Labyrinth, but will include Dreaming Deep. We will first break down what the mechanics and goals are for the new modes before revisiting the Depths of Illusive Realms. This will allow us to analyze the new modes agnostically, without risking accidentally forcing an explanation of how the Depths of Illusive Realms paralleled the current modes. Additionally, for this I will not mention the quality of life updates that were recently added, as those are not core mechanics, rather just streamlining changes. For 1,000 Gateways, what is the goal? The goal is to build strength through a series of stages to take down a final powerful enemy. This is done by optimizing a selection of buffs. What are the mechanics? For progression, you traverse through a series of rooms or chambers via doors or gateways. As for combat mechanics, we have the Dreamscape aid, which provides general buffs during Lucid Dream, but also slightly more specific buffs that promote the use of a class of resonators rather than a very specific set of resonators. We also have the Lucid Dream mode, which enhances effects of the core Dreamscape metaphor, the first metaphor received, as well as provides the Dreamscape aid active buff. Speaking of metaphors, you gain 1 to 2 of these every stage, and they typically provide varied buffs but can also be specialized. Finally, their team building mechanics, you have full use of your whole team and their stats and echoes. Now when it comes to Dreaming Deep, what is its goal? The goal of Dreaming Deep is to battle your way through an interactive story. What are its mechanics? For progression, you progress through a story-based board game with intermittent combat or text-based story. There's also the film theory, which are purchasable, persistent buffs between runs, making subsequent runs and movies much easier. As for combat mechanics, you have Synergy Burst, which is dependent on the active bond across the current team members. You also have metaphors, such as in 1,000 Gateways, but these ones are rarer and more powerful, but specific and with very limited overlap. Finally, team building, which is the main focus of this mode, where you recruit a team of pre-built resonators. You modify and enhance their abilities through subsequent recruitments, each recruitment modifying the resonator's abilities. There's only 5 total possible enhancements per resonator. Additionally, as you progress, you increase your team or character levels through events and encounters. This is capped at level 90, such as characters in the game, but provides the general buffs beyond that. Additionally, you only use your main resonator, and intro into the slot 2 and 3 for their liberations. Before we progress, I would ask that you pause for a moment here. Is there any key aspect of these two game modes that you feel like I didn't include? If so, please drop it in the comments below so we can compare it against what the Depths of Illusive Realms used to offer. Alright, now that we have analyzed these two modes, I feel we can comfortably say that they do not overlap with one another. One builds up resonators, while the other focuses on accruing metaphors. One focuses on a story experience, while the other focuses on streamlined combat. Each mode has its own goal or purpose, as well as provides different mechanics for the players to utilize and bounds to work within when accomplishing this goal. This is great, as it limits endgame redundancy and ensures that there are more unique modes for players to enjoy. Now, let's outline the goals and mechanics for version 1.x's Depths of Illusive Realms. Let's see if these two new modes truly offer the experience that so many players loved about Depths of Illusive Realms, and thus can be truly deemed spiritual successors. Or are these two modes completely different? I'll be using Crow's Depths of Illusive Realms guide from 1.4 for illustration purposes since I have no recording that far back. Okay, so for Depths of Illusive Realms, what was its goal? The goal here were two-part. Build strength through several stages to take down a final powerful enemy. This is done by optimizing a selection of buffs. There's a sub-goal, which was to discover the occasional story regarding the Somnoire from the Black and White Guardians. What were the mechanics? For progression, you would traverse through a series of rooms or chambers via doors or gateways. There was also the Thought Evolution, which were purchasable, persistent buffs between runs. As for combat mechanics, there were a plethora, such as mimetic tuning, which were general buffs or nerfs selectable by the player, affecting the difficulty of the run and thus adjusting the run's overall score. There was also echo leveling, where we could level up a 4-cost echo to provide various buffs as you collected certain attribute-aligned metaphors. There were also tokens, which applied buffs or nerfs to the realm, so to say, such as the Symphony Rank, Dreaming Fragments, room buffs, or summoning outside help, such as through the Serenity of Xiehua Village. Complementary to this, we had metaphors, which you gained every stage, typically providing varied and general buffs that could synergize with each other. And then finally, you had character ability enhancements, which altered or enhanced abilities to make each character a viable DPS. Finally, for team building mechanics, you had the option to recruit up to 2 resonators as concerto companions, which had limited playability. Additionally, while you would retain skill and weapon stats, all echo stats are removed, normalizing characters to the start of each run. We see here that some aspects of Illusive Realms remain, but have been split between the two new modes, particularly the goal and progression of Illusive Realms. We can begin then to trace back what game aspects were passed down from Illusive Realms to each mode. For instance, 1000 Gateways received the metaphors as well as the general stage progression. For Dreaming Deep, it received the character ability enhancements, the Thought Evolution, and the normalized Resonator stats and trial characters. Both of these modes also had new mechanics added. Namely, for 1000 Gateways, there is the Lucid Dream buff, which is a blast to play around. For Dreaming Deep, they added an extensive bond system that activates unique synergy bursts adapted from the Somnoire's Dreamlink. Dreaming Deep also brought the story of the Somnoire to the forefront. I can tell an incredible amount of work, creativity, and passion went into these modes and new systems. So if these modes received some of the aspects from Illusive Realms, why do I say that they are not true sequels or successors? The answer is quite simple. It is too fragmented. Additionally, these modes have lost some of the original aspects of Illusive Realms that made it a fun roguelike mode. For example, the difficulty adjustments with mimetic tuning, which was likely taken for Virtual Crisis, as well as the Echo Companion leveling through accumulated metaphor attributes, were both lost. Honestly, just as an aside, I am disappointed at how echoes are being pushed to the back burner, both in combat and for traversal, since version 2.0, with more focus being placed on the resonators themselves, but that's beyond the point of this video. The most important aspect that was lost was the extensive modifications that each character's kit received when the focus was placed solely on one character, rather than the whole team, such as in Dreaming Deep. In Dreaming Deep, each character has only 5 potential modifications, while in Illusive Realms, there were many beyond that, each drastically changing the kit's playstyle or damage profile. Watching some old playthroughs of Jinxi, Jiyan, and Chongli, each had at least 8 total modifications, if not more. This excess of potential modifications offered the player the choice of how to specialize and play their character each run, while in Dreaming Deep, you always end up collecting them all, making each run the exact same. I understand why the number of modifications may have been reduced, as all of these kit alterations, new interactions, and potential animation changes are a lot of work. However, I feel the Depths of Illusive Realms could have been the flagship endgame mode that was well worth the investment. Trial characters themselves had huge advertising potential in this mode. To expand on why this roguelike mode was fun, in Depths of Illusive Realms, each run felt unique because the plethora of metaphors, abilities and ability modifications, concerto companions, and the main echo companion allowed for numerous different combinations, each with unique playstyles. This variety made the Depths of Illusive Realms replayable, enjoyable, and intellectually satisfying. One of the best aspects of roguelike modes is the player's ability in each new run to slowly settle on a different path from a wide array of options, specializing and optimizing as they progress. This is coupled with the satisfying feeling of going from the underdog to discovering an overpowered interaction that breaks the mode after collecting all of the required pieces of something like Exodia. This is all lost in Dreaming Deep, however. There is no optimizing because everything is made easily available and there is no opportunity cost to selecting upgrades. I never think about the buffs I'm selecting. I just grab the first one each time. There is no optimizing because there is not an excess of options to optimize. After all, for my main resonator, I will quickly collect all 5 modifications, and as for the other resonators, well, they are just there for the bond level as their skills aren't used. I assume the intent of this mode was to change the lineup and adapt to unfavorable matchups, but there really is no need for that, especially since the new quality of life lets you just skip over leveled combat, which you always are thanks to the film theory and side objectives. It also probably doesn't help that you start the game mode maxed out skills, which is counter to the level progression concept of Dreaming Deep. Finally, there are no hidden, overpowered synergistic combinations of skills or metaphors, as the metaphors in Dreaming Deep are specific to resonator attributes and weapon classes, and thus there is no way for metaphors to synergize and amplify each other. In fact, due to their hyper-specific nature, I often don't get a metaphor that benefits the character I'm trying to run. Again, perhaps I am supposed to adapt and change my main resonator here, but there is nothing to adapt to, and thus no reason to swap. So I'll just keep playing the character I enjoy. Returning to the issue of a fragmented Depths of Illusive Realms, one rationalization I often see is that the 2 new Somnoire modes are supposed to be the Depths of Illusive Realms, just split into smaller parts. My response to that argument is, why split them? Why take a coherent and well-designed mode where every aspect plays off of and requires each other, and then split it into various components? That risks drastically reducing the synergistic power of different aspects coming together to make something greater than the sum of their parts. For instance, think of your favorite pizza. Now, cook the toppings and the crust separately. Sure, it might still taste good individually, but 1, it's not pizza, and 2, the meal doesn't hit the same overall. Why? Because you separated the different flavors and textures that amplified each other. I would like to acknowledge a counter-argument here. Perhaps the pizza is pizza tropicale, and some may argue that the components were not cohesive in the first place, in which case, separating out the pineapple would be beneficial to the mode. I will concede this argument, even though I personally enjoy pineapple on pizza, enough people don't. In fact, I feel that this was the case with Dreamlink from the Somnoire Labyrinth. While Dreamlink, now Synergy Burst in Dreaming Deep, was a great idea, I felt it overcomplicated Illusive Realms' already cohesive mechanics. However, one aspect I enjoyed about Illusive Realms was that it could serve as a test bed for new mechanics, such as Dreamlink, to be introduced without breaking the overall game. Rotating in new mechanics that the devs want to test as quote-unquote visiting metaphors could be good for the game's overall health. For instance, I feel negative statuses would have profited tremendously from a quote-unquote public beta in 1 or 2 iterations of the Depths of Illusive Realms as visiting metaphors. This would have allowed Kuro Games to determine public sentiment before releasing something that could not be taken back. Hopefully, I have convinced you Dreaming Deep and Thousand Gateways are unique, both with unique aspects from the Depths of Illusive Realms, but that some aspects are still missing. How can we fill this empty space? Briefest answer would be to bring back a visually revamped and balanced version of Depths of Illusive Realms. If for some reason I was forced to choose between the modes though, I would prefer fewer modes of higher quality and cohesion over more modes of lesser quality. While I would prefer Kuro Games just polish Illusive Realms and add it back, if we had to replace Dreaming Deep updates and the Thousand Gateways for the Illusive Realms, I would be fine with that. However, I believe even if Illusive Realms was added back, that Dreaming Deep would be able to stand on its own as a unique mode with its emphasis on story, unique bond system, and synergy burst. Additionally, Thousand Gateways, given the ability to use your own built team, plus the variety of lucid dream effects and the Unborn Echo rewards, is also able to hold its own as an enjoyable alternative to farming tacit fields. What I desire most is to bring back the cohesive aspects of Depths of Illusive Realms that are still missing, namely the roguelike aspects and the focus on a single character. Considering all of these modes, what improvements could be made to 1. Limit redundancy, and 2. Polish each mode with its own identity. Ironically, because I was rather disappointed when Thousand Gateways came out and it wasn't Illusive Realms, I believe that the Thousand Gateways is good as it is. It is simple and straightforward, yet still offers some sense of progression as the character optimizes their metaphors for different playstyles without completely breezing through the mode. You can clearly feel when your build is working and when it is not. Both 1.4 Depths of Illusive Realms and Dreaming Deep are a completely different matter though. While Depths of Illusive Realms felt amazing to play, it could use some pointers from Dreaming Deep's UI design. Additionally, it does require some balancing. As for Dreaming Deep, well, there are several issues that unfortunately the most recent quality of life have exacerbated. As this video is already over 10 minutes long, I will leave the critique of Dreaming Deep and Depths of Illusive Realms to a separate video. For now, I hope I have laid out a solid argument for why Dreaming Deep and Thousand Gateways do not properly cover all of the aspects that were present in Depths of Illusive Realms, and even if they did, that separating them drastically reduced the fun and replayability when compared to the complete Depths of Illusive Realms. With all that said, I will work on my critiques in the hopes that Kuro Games decides to bring Depths of Illusive Realms back from the depths of the Somnoire. Until then, take care, and as always, keep those cores fed and stable.
Time to get back to work.